The courage to be disliked. Summary. The courage to be disliked starts off with the idea of Adlerian Psychology, which means the self being determined not by our experiences themselves, but by the meaning we give them. The book begins explaining Adlerian Psychology, which means the self being determined not by our experiences themselves, but by the meaning we give them. Thus meaning that everything that has happened in the past up to this point has no effect on the present unless we let it. Everyone is living with a goal, and emotions do not decide our actions. If someone begins to express anger, it is because they have a goal. Because let's say someone that knows them walks in like a relative, and suddenly they quicken up their act and they act kindly. This is because emotions do not overtake us. Emotions are not individual. Emotions are not detached from ourselves. Emotions are subdued under us. Emotions do not take control. Therefore, humans are not controlled by emotions or the past. However, Freudian proposes the idea that people have no free will and that their present is ultimately affected by their past. However, people can change. Think of all the possibilities. You can choose whether you're happy or unhappy at this moment. No one can change when one is born, but surely you can change how you act and your personality. You can change at any time. However, if you decide not to, it's because you're choosing not to. Stop living in the if and only realm. It's an excuse. Adler states, anything that has happened up to this point should have no effect on the present, for the past does not exist. If you're constantly in competition, you'll be conscious of winners and losers. And soon you'll feel that everyone is looking down at you. Even if you're someone that wins, you will often compare yourself and you'll live not in peace. The boy in the book responded to the philosopher, yes, I feel as if I can't celebrate others wholeheartedly. And the philosopher said, this is because you view others as your competitors. You perceive other people's happiness as your defeat, said the philosopher. Once one is released from competition, we are freed from the need to triumph over one another and free from the fear that says, maybe I'll lose. And from here on out, one becomes able to celebrate others wholeheartedly. When you start to view others as comrades rather than enemies or competitors, the way that you view the world will change. You'll begin to see life in a new way. Now this is very important, and I want you guys to keep this in your heart. Life is not a competition. It's enough to keep moving in a forward direction. Even if one is a step ahead, we all walk on the same plane. We are only trying to progress over our past selves. Now, perhaps many in your life have decided to go into your tasks and decide to tell you that, well, you should do this or you should do that. You would be happier if you did this. And this is where we get into the separation of tasks. How do you separate one's tasks from others? You don't intrude on other people's tasks. And how do you tell whose task it is? It is the person who is affected by the decision. Many may try to tell you, I'm telling you this for your own good, or do this decision, it's for your own good. But perhaps there's another motive. They may be trying to get you what appeals and what is favorable to them and not to you. Remember, the counselor isn't the one that changes, it's the one being counseled. It doesn't matter how others react to your decisions. That's their task, not yours. How others feel about anything that you do in your life is their task. So take the burden off of your shoulders. The only reason you're worried about how others perceive you or view you is because you haven't done the separation of tasks. Don't live life with the mentality of rewards in relationships. For example, do not go around thinking, well, I gave this person so much, so they owe me this much. Do not get tied to reward. Now, again, speaking about courage, children who have not been taught to confront challenges will try to avoid all challenges, and he will lose the courage to face his life tasks. I wanted to add a really quick side note that I think could help somebody. For so long, I've been so worried about how other people perceive me. When I started reading this book, I began to realize that when I feel afraid of what other people are going to think about me, I dwell in that fear. But I just am lacking courage. If I speak to myself, have courage, be yourself, then I will automatically be filled with this strength. And that is why Jesus tells us, take courage, do not be afraid. The desire of recognition will make you unfree. The path of freedom is without recognition, to live in a way where others' wishes are granted, trying to gauge other people's feelings. Why choose this? You choose the term desire for recognition, but what you're really saying is that you don't want to be disliked by anybody. Now what should one do to not be disliked? Swear loyalty to everybody? This will only cause issues, and everyone will see that you're a fraud. Now, not only are you lying to yourself, but now you begin to lie to others. True freedom comes when you are disliked by somebody. It's a sign you're living according to your own principles. There is a cost when one wants to exercise freedom, and that is being disliked. Unless one is unconcerned by other people's judgment, has no fear of being disliked by other people, and pays the cost that one might never be recognized, one will never be able to follow through in one's own way of living. Recognition. People want to like themselves, so they want the feeling of contribution. They seek recognition as an easy means of feeling they contribute. But if one's means for gaining a feeling of contribution turns out to be being recognized by others, in the long run, we'll need to walk through life in accordance to other people's wishes and feelings. There's truly no freedom in that. If one really has a feeling of contribution and feel that they give, one will no longer have any need for recognition from others because one will already feel that they contribute. Now, why is this important? Adler explains that one of the true ways we can feel like we have worth is by feeling that we contribute, to take the eyes off of ourselves and to look out into the world. To be in a community of people, of animals, of plants. Society and community emerge from two people. When you do this, you will no longer be interested in yourself, but in others. People who cannot carry out the separation of tasks are obsessed with the desire of recognition and, in turn, are extremely self-centered. You'll constantly be thinking, what do others think about me? How do they perceive me? And you'll constantly be looking at yourself. That's why it's important to switch from attachment to self to concern for others. Now this will bring freedom. You are not the center of the world. Each of us is a member of a community, and that's where we belong. Feeling our own place of refuge in our community, feeling it's okay that we are here and belong in relationships or work, etc. by contributing. The I is not the center. The I is not the center of the whole, but a member of the community. They believe everyone lives to serve them and should give precedence to their feelings. Now you push other people away when you see yourself at the center because you have no regard for the community. But you are not the center, and how freeing is that? Do not think about what the person will give you, but rather what you can give back. And because one gives something, that one can find refuge, which will be a sense of belonging that one acquires through one's own effort, which is ultimately community feeling. So first, there's a separation of tasks, and as the goal is the community feeling. And a community feeling is having a sense of others as comrades, friends, and an awareness of having one's own refuge and belonging within that community. Now, here's a key lesson. If a relationship breaks down because you raise an objection, then it's not the kind of relationship that you want to be in anyway. And do not cling to the small community in front of you. There will always be larger communities that exist. Now, being praised means one is receiving judgment from another person as good, and the measure of what is good or bad is completely dependent on their ideas. So if receiving praise is what you're after, you'll always have to change what you do depending on who you're dealing with. Now, one may feel worth by what they do, such as how they contribute, but let's not focus on acts, but on being and existence. If you consider things at the level of being, we are of use to others. If someone you knew got hurt or injured in a car crash, you would not begin to think of what they can do, but rather you'd be grateful for their existence and them being. Now it's important to be honest with yourself. You may say, I can't get an education because I never went to college. However, deep down you're truly saying, I don't want to achieve. You don't want to commit, and you don't have the courage to change. Because trying and failing can be scary, but have courage. Now, many times we look at the world through a magnifying lens, focusing on one part, on one interaction. Let's say you had a negative interaction with someone and they disliked something about you. From that experience, you can make judgments about the world, but you are only looking at the part, not the whole. Now, with Adlerian Psychology, you can be happy now. According to Adlerian Psychology, we feel we do not have worth unless we contribute. But we do not decide if our contributions are of use. That's the task of other people, and is not something that you can intervene on. Now, we should live earnestly in the here and now. Don't live dimly. The past has nothing to do with the here and now, and the future is not something to worry about. One of the greatest life lie. One wants to get into a dream university or has a goal, yet does not dance the dance. When one wants to become a lawyer or a doctor or a nurse, they must dance the dance of becoming that nurse or becoming that doctor or lawyer. Dance the dance of life. Do not see life as linear, but rather see it in moments. Live earnestly in the here and now, but not too seriously. It's simple, not something to get too serious about. The greatest life lie is to not live in the here and now, and rather to live in the future or the past. Let's dance in earnest the moments in the here and now. Do not look at the past or the future. One has no use for destinations. As long as you're dancing, you'll get somewhere. The power of one person is greater, or rather, my power is immeasurably great. If I change, the world will change. The world that appears to me after learning Adlerian Psychology is different. It's different than the former one. It's as if someone that was nearsighted put on glasses for the first time. And even the colors are more vivid, the entire visible world. Start with no regard if others are cooperative or not. Begin to separate the life tasks. Here and now is shining so brightly that I can no longer see the future, and the past is no longer here. The world is simple, and life is too.